Hello and welcome. I'm your host Muzamil Abdullah, and we are currently at the Bernama Mobile Studio, coming to you live from the Energy Transition Conference 2026, ETCon26, brought to you by Tenaga Nasional Berhad, TNB. Now, for those interested to attend, please do so from the 3rd of June to the 5th of June 2026 at the Kuala Lumpur Convention Centre, KLCC Kuala Lumpur, where you can meet with industry players, stakeholders, experts within the green technology industry, where they can answer all the questions pertaining green energy and and the transition towards green energy as a whole. So today we have someone very close to home, especially from Tenaga Nasional Berhad itself, which is Yong, the Chief Sustainability Officer of Tenaga Nasional Berhad, TNB. So welcome to ETCon26, which is TNB as the main organizer. So how do you find ETCon26 so far?
Hi, good evening, Muse. I think ETCon 2026 actually give a different vibes compared to 3 years ago when we started organizing the first ETCon.
Which is the 2023?
Yes, in 2023. So in 2026, we have kind of elevated the conference, I would say, and to bring the industry player, the government, the policymakers, as well as academia together to this conference. So I think there's a lot of interesting things going on, especially how we embed AI, aligning with this year's theme. I think it's very timely, especially when we move towards really the implementation and execution of energy transition. So I think if you can see the vibes of this energy transition conference, you can feel the vibes of AI, the vibes of how we embed sustainability into this conference.
All right. So in my discussion with other panelists just now, we talked extensively about the usage of AI, the integration of AI in the green technology and in the energy industry. But you're here for the sustainability, since you are in that particular field. So when we talk about ESG, a lot of corporate players think of ESG as something that you should tick, like a boxes, like a report card. But TNB has clearly shifted from this and look at ESG as a fundamental strategic discipline and a driver of long-term value. So when did TNB see ESG as a strategic business discipline? When does this happen?
I think that's a very, very good question. I think it started way back in 2023 when we first set up a sustainability division. That is where we actually noticed that ESG is no longer a tick box and it's definitely not a separate academic exercise. What we really need to do is embed the whole ESG and sustainability into our business. We see the importance of if we are able to do so, our business, especially TNB business, will be able to withstand the business resilience as well as to ensure the continuity. And I think most importantly, we believe that by embedding sustainability into operations, we can actually achieve the competitive advantage for TNB. So in 2023, what we did is we first set up a dedicated sustainability division. And also with two purposes. First is to really strengthen our governance in terms of sustainability. And we also aim to how to embed and make sure every part of TNB operation, including the 36,000 of our staff, understand and aware of what is ESG and ensure that the sustainability is embedded into every single decision making in the operation. Wow. So that was the vision back then 3 years ago. And we started by setting up, we even have a board sustainability and risk committee, a dedicated committee to look into the, I would say, the governance of sustainability strategy. At the same time, at management level, we do have a SETC, Sustainability and Energy Transition Committee, that actually debate and discuss whether certain sustainability strategy, be it emission related, be it a CSR related, be it a social impact related, and also governance related, whether it is feasible and is it time yet to actually build as part of our business or not. So the deliberation went straight at the top level, and then I would say Tenaga really have a very strong tone from the top on sustainability and the recognition that sustainability is not just a cost, but it actually will bring values to the business. I think that actually make a big turning point for Tenaga in seeing sustainability as a value driver for TNB.
Because it's quite beautiful and a little bit interesting for you to mention that every 36,000 of TNB staff should understand the concept of ESG and implement it in every decision making. However, how did you manage to get all of the TNB staff on board to understand ESG? I mean, it's not exactly an easy concept or idea to grasp. So how did you implement this mentality so they have this idea that whatever you decide, ESG is the main priority?
I think that's a very good question. Indeed, it is a journey. I can be very sure until now, not 36,000 of our staff has already embedded yet. We are still in the journey, but I'll say that we have moved a long way actually.
Yes.
Starting from, for example, I give you in terms of emissions. So not just a policy that we set up, but we also think of how should we set it and ensure that people at the plant understand what are we talking about emissions. How do we actually calculate? What do you mean by scope 1 emissions, scope 2 emissions, scope 3 emission? Why do we even need to disclose that? Is it just reporting? And I think what is most important thing is by having these indicators, ESG indicators, our plant operators starting to realize that by studying the trending, it's actually give a meaning to the operation. Through these indicators and these numbers that we are asked to report, we're not just having a good numbers of disclosure, but also give it insights to the operation team to actually find opportunity to be more optimized, to actually operate more efficiently. For example, in terms of emissions, our plant starting to look into how to do it more efficiently so that for every gigawatt that we generate, we actually emit lesser. So by doing so, we're not just doing the tick box for sustainability, but we are also at the same time using less fuel to actually burn. And in that case, help with the operation efficiency. So that itself actually bring value. And I would say is a real business value to the business.
All right, so the energy transition is never straightforward. It's very dynamic, and if I'm not mistaken, there's always three factors that are always being considered when it comes to energy transition, which is affordability, for sustainability, and also reliability. And how does the TNB navigate these three trilemmas, and while at the same time pushing the agenda, but not sacrificing in cost? You know?
Yeah. That's a very interesting question. In fact, I was sitting in a few panelist sessions today, and most of the panelists were talking about what is the most important elements in this energy trilemma. And there are various answers, and there's no right or wrong answer. That's why people always saying that we have to find the right balance. So I think in the context of Tenaga, we have to first understand TNB is a 77 years old company in Malaysia. And being a national utility, it is very, very important to ensure that we take care of the supply security. So that, because we can understand that having a continuous electricity supply is very key to our country economic growth. And also is a social aspect on ensuring that we have to keep the lights on. I'm sure Mills, every time you switch on the power and switch, you don't expect that there's no electricity supply. I think that's the key for us to be in this business. But alongside, we also need to work a lot with our regulators to really look into how to keep the cost affordable, and then how to actually help and empower our consumers. So currently we have in Peninsula, we have more than 10 million customers. So every customer will actually needs to be empowered on how to utilize electricity more efficiently. That's why Tenaga, working together with our regulators, our governments, we actually look into how to help and how to empower. Other than giving this MELP, is a program that we help with giving literacy and understanding to our consumers about how to be more energy efficient. We also have this TOU, time of use program, where we empower our consumer to choose. If you want to switch it on during the peak, then we have to pay more. If you choose to be practicing the sustainability way of living, you can use it when there's non-peak and you actually pay less. So I think all these elements can actually help with the element of affordability. And last but not least, the most important element I would say is the sustainability part. So I think decarbonization is for real. We have to really look into decarbonization because climate change and then other impacts is already giving real impact to not just TNB, but I think globally we can feel the climate change.
You can feel it on our skin.
Exactly, heat wave, flood. So Tenaga, our assets, we're operating over 90,000 assets across Peninsula Malaysia. So our assets are exposed to all these physical
Elements,
risks, flood, heat wave, and all. So being a utility company, it is very important to actually address, also come together on climate change. So in terms of sustainability, the whole decarbonization is very, very key. So I would like to spend a bit of time just to touch on TNB decarbonization. So currently, TNB, we have probably 50% coal, 30% gas, and also the rest are renewable energy, including hydro. So we have our net zero objective by 2050 alongside with the government's targets of 70% of RE into the system. So the bigger question is how Tenaga can achieve it. You're still burning coal and things like that. But I think Tenaga has already laid out our plan very clearly on how this decarbonization journey needs to happen. So we have two big strategies. One is to how will we manage the carbon now already have in our system. Another part is on how we expand the renewable energy so that we can make our carbon emission intensity better, is a better number. So the renewable energy parts is ongoing, and as you can see, it's showcased in this energy transition conference. With the NATO, we have our 2.5 gigawatt of hybrid hydro floating solar ongoing, and there are LSS programs as well as other RE programs that facilitate RE to come into picture. With the existing portfolio, what we're doing is, I think the most important thing is how to optimize our operations in terms of our, for example, our coal plant and our gas plants. Means with the lesser fuel, how can you burn less?
But be more efficient.
Yes, be more efficient. So I think that is very, very key. And I think that element actually drive, like I mentioned, a lot in terms of efficiency, not just giving real impact to the emission, but also helping with the business performance. And of course, we also explore options like carbon capture together with partners. And also, I think these are the technology that will eventually come into the system and assist in driving this carbon management.
So when we talk about sustainability, right? So it's easy when it's on paper, but the data will be proven once we see it implemented in real life and also from real results. So since the ESG has been introduced in Malaysia, sustainability has been introduced in TNBs of daily operations, have you seen any positive impacts from this, even at a minuscule level to next level achievement?
I think they are maybe taking TNB as an example. So I will maybe share two lenses. One is the business lens. Another one is probably more on behavior change that I observe from our own TNB. So maybe the more lighter one, from our own TNB staff, I think the awareness is being created even way back in our HQ in Bangsa. We can actually start looking into the awareness. A lot of our staff appreciates the whole ESG into including the lifestyle. For example, even though the requirement is to share the ESG indicators of scope 3, means you measure every day when you commute, what is your footprint. But because of that measure, then our staff start being very active in, I need to reduce my carbon footprint. Now I need to start doing car sharing of carpool. I need to look into EV possibility. In fact, Tenaga also give incentive to our staff who actually use the EV car. Yeah. And also, I think most importantly, we also encourage people to take public transport to come to the office. So by killing two birds with one stone, not just personal level that you achieve, but you also help the company in reducing the scope 3. So these are one of the examples. There are also examples like in terms of waste management. So we all know that in terms of waste management, in ESG indicators, is we want to minimize the waste into the landfill. So what we do for non-hazardous waste, for example, the cafe that we have in TNB, the food waste, how do we manage that? So not just through awareness, we are encouraging people to only take the portion that you need, but also for the real food waste that we generate, we actually work with our own research center, and all our food waste in HQ actually brought into our research center to repurpose it into our the budget compost.
Yes.
Yeah, that will actually help to do planting, tree plantings, and all, and encourage a better behavior in that sense. So I feel that indirectly, the behavior is also inculcated as you are driving this whole ESG. But in business, I think I see a lot of changes. From planning to how you operate the assets, how you dispose the asset. I think a very obvious example will be climate change. I think we all talk about how we actually look into climate change. In fact, in terms of ESG reporting, for S2 is purely on climate reporting, you see. So what happened is in TNB, we actually have this, we have 90,000 assets, and together with the data that in collaborations with Met Malaysia and all, so we actually have a proper risk assessment to all the 90,000 assets to understand where they are seated, and then to know which location actually exposed to certain type of physical risk, for example, flood, riverine, and as well as heat wave, like you mentioned just now, because every of this exposure will give impact to the operations. So by having this, what we have changed in terms of how we plan the assets is, first, before you even start planting that asset, you have to do this assessment first and mapping first. Then is the question on if you are located at the exposed physical risk area. You ask yourself, are we still planting here?
Obviously not.
Exactly. And if you are planting here, is there mitigations that you can do to ensure that your assets is resilient in that sense? If can, the next question is, what's the cost to it? Then, of course, the ROI and things like that. So it's actually already influencing the decision making on how you want to plan your assets. So for the operation assets, for example, by having to know that the exposure, we start looking into preparing. Because I think as a utility company, the most important thing is how resilient you are towards all these climate risks, for example. So in this case, our operations assets, you will know the exposure. Then you can start doing mitigation. For example, you can see some of the towers are being raised. Some of our substations are installed with certain floodgate. And even our operations team, they can actually prepare better, knowing that certain risk is coming in certain time and things like that. So I think without realizing, if you are able to embed all the requirement or so-called tick box of sustainability into the business decision making, so you are already it's already a big win to me. So this is a very classic example that TNB already practicing, and I can see the way we planning assets is already different. And you like it or not, the sustainability element, without mentioning it's a sustainability requirement, is already embedded in the operation. So I would say, it is very, very encouraging to see that change in TNB. And I would say it's a very good tools to provide an informed decision making for us.
All right, so when we talk about transitioning into greener technologies, sustainability, ESGs and all this, it's not just Malaysia. Our neighboring countries, especially in ASEAN, are also heading towards the same goal. However, how do TNB chip in and contributes towards the ASEAN's agenda of heading towards net zero or probably greener technology transition? I mean, where do TNB play a role in this?
Okay, I think as a national utility, it's very key for TNB to be leading in this. That's why one of the purpose of us having this ET conference is also to put the thinking cap together. We do have a lot of partners from ASEAN countries to come on board to discuss and to share where are the collaborations and also progress. So if you are joining our ET conference, and you will know, you'll hear a lot of progress and conversations. So I mentioned the decarbonization journey that TNB going through. One of the key parts that's very important is the grid, right? So our grid needs to be smart, needs to be ready, needs to be able to accept the intermittency of our solar, which is the RE that come into the system. So TNB is moving aggressively in taking care of the grid. And in fact, in today's DPM's speech, also he did mention that the government has also allocated under RP for some big budget to actually drive and ensure our grid is ready. So the next question comes into the picture on, by having only the peninsular grid ready, is it enough to actually cater for the whole energy transition that we are talking about? So I think that's where the collaborations between ASEAN countries come into the picture. So one of the initiatives that Tenaga is driving is also ASEAN Power Grid, whereby we will be working with our neighboring countries like Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. So existingly, of course, we do have already some interconnections that is for reliability purposes. But way forward, how to facilitate more renewable energy. For example, in Vietnam, there are wind
turbine.
Yes, correct. There's energy, there's excess. Then how do we then transport through to Malaysia that needs it with the data center setup that needs the grid, or Singapore and our neighboring country who needs it? So that's where APG plays a role. I think on top of that, another very important point that I think ASEAN country needs to really come together is the technology sharing as well as the capability building. I think this is where I'm very proud that Tenaga has actually taken a very leading role in setting up this ETSA, Energy Transition and Sustainability Academy, through our ILSAS. ILSAS is our dedicated training center. So what we have done is through the experience of energy transition, the projects that we have done, even the BESS that we have built ahead of schedule and successfully commissioned, as well as sustainability practices that we have. So what we have done is working together with ILSAS and convert the experience, which I think is very valuable experience, into learning modules with the aim to share and to collaborate so that we can work together and make the capabilities better. So I think that's very valuable, and ASEAN countries can actually share this and collaborate better in terms of partnership in building capabilities.
So you talk about the ASEAN Power Grid, right? It's a very idealistic concept, and it is something that we should all strive towards. But then again, it all boils down to policy changes and also the political willingness of each nation when it comes to this. Some may have a different agenda from what we have. So how do you ensure that the cooperation by the other countries are in line with Malaysia's agenda to achieve this ASEAN Power Grid?
Yeah, I think that is a very good question. That's why the collaborations will be, there's a lot of G2G, government to government discussion, and then the utility needs to come together. I think the most important thing is we all having a common goal, that is to decarbonize. I think if we have that common goal, then it's through discussion, negotiations, and I always believe that the technology and capabilities has improved in very, very accelerated manner. So I believe that more discussion and collaborations will bring the change and the difference. In fact, we actually slowly see progression and also improvement in terms of progress.
So compared to other neighboring countries, where are we in terms of sustainability in the operations of TNB compared to other nations? Where are we currently?
That is a very good question. So of course, I think let me just validate with a third party results that will be better. So Tenaga Nasional has been subjected to ESG, independent ESG rating. So the independent assessment will actually look at us in terms of overall performance and compare us with the industry player, including the Iberdrola of the world, the Enel of the world. So I'm very proud of the team's achievement. From 3 years ago, we were at triple B for the longest
So
time.
triple B is that a mid-tier or?
Yes, I will consider that mid-tier. So we even commence a project. We call it a pathway to A because we want to achieve A, MSCI rating A. So of course that assessment is really beyond practice. They actually assess you from your ESG, not just a tick box. They also look into the progress. You need to validate with your achievement in terms of the indicators, in terms of a practice, and then in terms of how you narrate and communicate with your stakeholders. Because at the end of the day, business sustainability is also about what is the impact towards your stakeholders, what stakeholders needs and what stakeholder wants, and not just what TNB wants. I think that's very, very key. So when we through series of effort, this P2A project has actually brought us to some success to it. In 2025, we have actually successfully moved to A. And then in March 2026, we got a double A.
So there's more A inside.
Yes, which actually put us on par with, I think, a lot of utilities. Yeah, so bear in mind, we are still emitting, we are still having our coal plants, but yet we are there. I think it's really beyond just emissions, but also I will say even from the social pillar, from our very strong governance in terms of sustainability, as well as even safety and even how we build capability buildings and bring impact to the environment. I think those are the key elements that help us. And then beyond that, we also subscribe because we are a public listed company. So we also subscribe as a FTSE for Goods rating. So we have been in 3 stars for the longest time. And this year we actually got a 4-star. So that is, to me, is also achievement and a collaborations and effort from all Tenagas. I will say every employees actually put in effort to make this a success. But again, it is definitely a journey that we cannot be just happy where we are. We need to actually move further. And remember I mentioned, if you ask me, are we there yet? I will say not yet. We still have a lot more to do. Not just emissions that we need to embed, water management, biodiversity, that's something that we are looking at. And in fact, we are putting a lot of effort to look into what is the model to actually take care of our biodiversity. We really want to go beyond just having a biodiversity policy. So for now, we reckon that every project that we do have impact on our biodiversity in terms of 5 key areas, whether it's a flora, the fauna, the air quality, the soil, and the water. So then we want to know exactly what impact that every project that we build, what kind of impact that it will have towards these 5 elements. And if it does have, what kind of mitigations that as a responsible company we need to take note on. And the same operating model that we are trying to use, and in fact, our new project needs to assess first. Okay,
all of these factors needs to be calculated on.
So you imagine you have a new project that you need to plan. So first we need to assess, are you at the high risk zone? If you are, means let's say your project is located as an endangered species, flora or fauna, what kind of mitigations? What kind of other investment that you need to put in? And the last resort, do you need to shift the projects again, looking into the impact towards the biodiversity? I think this is a real impact that we want to make through the sustainability effort, because we know whatever impact that we make will actually carry on not just to this generation, but also the next generation to come. I think that is the real meaning of sustainability.
And what's TNB doing now is very beautiful. And like you said, the next generation will surely appreciate. And let's hope that they will continue TNB's good work and also whatever the government's agenda is now, which is to achieve net zero, will be achieved probably even earlier than what the originally target was. So that was Yong, the Chief Sustainability Officer with our very own utility company, Tenaga Nasional Berhad, speaking to you from Energy Transition Conference 2026, ETCon 2026, brought to you by TNB. I really hope more time could be given for us to talk more in depth about this, because it is very interesting and you managed to tell the viewers in layman terms. So it's easy for an average Joe like me to understand what is going on in the industry right now. However, that's all the time we have right now. We will meet again and we will bring in more panelists for you to hear from soon.